Walk into any grocery store and you'll see a modern marvel. Aisles overflowing with food. It's a testament to what we can achieve, but it's also a fragile illusion. An illusion that's closer to shattering than most people think. Most of us walk these aisles completely unaware that our entire food system is balanced on a knife's edge. We see stocked shelves and assume they'll always be that way. We mistake efficiency for strength. But the system that feeds billions is a hyper-complex network built for profit, not durability. Globalization has stretched our supply chains across oceans, making them incredibly vulnerable to political games, shipping jams, or health crises. Our industrial farms rely on a tiny handful of crops, leaving us exposed to droughts, pests, or a sudden shortage of fertilizer. And the whole machine runs on a just-in-time delivery model, which is just a business-savvy way of saying most stores only have about 3 to 7 days of food on hand. This isn't just theory. While global food production might look stable on paper, the world is in a state of what some call a polycrisis. Conflicts, wild climate swings, and economic shocks are constantly testing the system. We're seeing how local problems can quickly spiral into global shortages, and how persistently high levels of acute food insecurity continue to affect hundreds of millions of people. Today, we're not just going to point out the weaknesses. We're going to expose the fatal survival mistakes that will cause most people to starve when these shelves inevitably go bare. These aren't complicated errors. They're simple, fundamental failures in how we think and how we prepare. And the number one mistake is something almost all of us are guilty of. The single most dangerous threat to your survival isn't a hurricane or a war. It's a psychological blind spot called normalcy bias. It's that little voice in your head whispering, "Everything's always been fine, so it'll keep being fine." It's the comfortable assumption that the empty shelves and chaos you see on the news could never happen in your town, to your family. This is the mindset that dooms people before a crisis even starts. When you're caught in the normalcy bias, you see preparation as paranoia. You might grab a few extra cans of soup, but building a pantry with months of food seems extreme, almost laughable. You're anchored to the world you see every day, a world of convenience and plenty. The idea of a true collapse where the economy fails but the buildings are still standing feels like something from a history book, not something for here and now. But history is littered with examples of stable societies that came undone with shocking speed. Venezuela, Argentina, the Weimar Republic. The grocery stores were still there, but the economic systems that filled them had completely failed. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Our normal is incredibly fragile. The global food system is a miracle of efficiency, but it's not resilient. It's a house of cards that depends on countless things working in perfect harmony. Stable fuel prices, open shipping lanes, and political cooperation. Even if harvests are good, the system to get that food to you is brittle and easily disrupted. How to avoid this mistake? The cure for normalcy bias is a dose of honest reality and a simple plan. You have to accept that systems fail. It's not a question of if, but when and for how long. Start by acknowledging the fragility. The next time you're in a grocery store, look around and realize that what you see is maybe a 3-day supply, all of it dependent on trucks that need fuel and roads that need to be clear. Then, take the first logical step. Don't try to build a year's worth of food overnight. That's a recipe for feeling overwhelmed. Instead, give yourself a 2-week test. Buy enough non-perishable food and water to last your family for 14 days without a single trip to the store. Once you have that buffer, you've broken the psychological barrier. You've taken a real step that proves you're not just a passive victim in waiting. From there, you build slowly. Each week, Add a little extra to your cart with the long term in mind. A bag of rice here, a few cans of beans there. The goal is to make preparedness a habit, not a panicked sprint. You're not hoarding. You're buying an insurance policy against a long and growing list of well-documented risks. Ask the average person how much food they have, and they'll point to a full fridge and a packed freezer. In their mind, they see weeks, maybe a month's worth of meals. That right there is a catastrophic miscalculation. For most people, their entire food supply is plugged into a single point of failure, the electrical grid. When the power goes out for good, the fridge and freezer become a ticking time bomb. They go from being your best friend to your worst enemy, and you're suddenly in a frantic race against spoilage. The standard advice you hear is to eat the refrigerated food first, then the frozen food, and finally, your pantry stuff. Sounds smart, right? Except it's a strategy that leads you straight off a cliff. In the first 24 to 48 hours, people will feast. They'll fire up the grill and cook everything from the freezer before it can go bad. It feels like they're being proactive, but it's a disastrous waste. They are burning through their most calorie-dense, high-value foods at the very beginning of a crisis, when their bodies need it the least, and when nobody knows how long this will last. After a few days of this barbecue bonanza, the fridge is empty, the freezer is rotten, and they're left staring at a handful of cans in the pantry. This is the moment true panic sets in. They've squandered their reserves and are now facing a long-term disaster with nothing. This total reliance on electricity-dependent food is the hallmark of the unprepared. Their entire survival plan, whether they realize it or not, hinges on the power coming back on in 72 hours. But in a real collapse, that's not going to happen. How to avoid this mistake? You've got to flip your thinking from refrigerator first to pantry first. The food in your fridge and freezer is a temporary bonus, not your main supply. Your real food security is in what's sitting on your shelves. In a power-down crisis, your first priority isn't to start eating, it's to start preserving. If you have a generator, great, you might buy your freezer sometime. If not, you need the skills and supplies to save that thawing meat. This means knowing how to can, having salt to cure, or a smoker to make jerky. These are the skills that turn a ticking liability into a long-term asset. But the real solution is to build a pantry that makes your fridge an afterthought. Focus on foods that are stable for years, even decades, at room temperature. Every time you shop, think in terms of calories on the shelf. The goal is a stockpile of food that is completely independent of the power grid. Your refrigerated food is a luxury to enjoy while the power is on, and a short-term bonus when it goes out. The person who starves is the one whose food supply dies with the power grid. The person who survives is the one who built their foundation in the pantry. In the survival world, we have a saying: you can last 3 weeks without food, but only 3 days without water. Even knowing this, most people completely neglect their water strategy. They might grab a few cases of bottled water during the last-minute panic, but they have no real grasp of the sheer volume of water you need to survive, or the hidden dangers of a contaminated supply. This is one of the fastest ways a collapse will claim lives. In a crisis, the tap is one of the first things to go. Water treatment plants and pumping stations run on electricity. No power, no water pressure. When the taps run dry, a primal switch flips in the human brain. The gnawing panic of thirst overrides all rational thought. People will scramble for any water they can find. Streams, rivers, ponds, even swimming pools. And that's where the second wave of disaster hits. In any developed area, most surface water is dangerously contaminated with bacteria, chemicals, and parasites. Drinking that water without purifying it is a ticket to a debilitating illness like cholera, dysentery, or giardia. These aren't just stomach bugs. They are violent sicknesses that cause vomiting and diarrhea, rapidly dehydrating you. In a world without doctors or medicine, these illnesses are often a death sentence. You'll find yourself fighting a life-threatening sickness that's draining your body of the very water you so desperately need. Even if water is still flowing from the tap, you can't assume it's safe. When municipal systems fail, the water itself can become poisonous, as we saw in places like Flint, Michigan. How to avoid this mistake? Your water plan needs to stand on 3 pillars: storage, purification, and sourcing. Storage. The absolute bare minimum is 1 gallon of water per person per day. That covers drinking and a little hygiene. For a family of 4, that's 28 gallons just for 1 week. You need to aim for a 2-week supply at minimum. The easiest way to start is by stocking up on commercially bottled water. For more volume, look into food-grade water bricks or 55-gallon barrels. And if a crisis hits, the first thing you should do, before the pressure drops, is fill every single container you have. Bathtubs, sinks, pots, and pans. That one action can secure you dozens of gallons of clean water. Purification. You can't rely on stored water alone. You have to own multiple ways to make dirty water safe to drink. Boiling. This is the most reliable method. A rolling boil for 1 minute kills pretty much everything. Of course, this means fuel is a critical part of your water plan. Filtration. A high-quality water filter, like a Sawyer squeeze or a Berkey system, is essential for removing bacteria and protozoa. Chemicals. Water purification tablets or basic unscented liquid bleach are effective backups. You absolutely must know the proper ratios. For bleach, it's typically 8 drops per gallon of clear water. Get it wrong, and you could make yourself sick. Sourcing. You need to know where water is before you need it. Scope out nearby rivers, lakes, creeks, or even that neighbor's swimming pool. Know where they are and have a plan to get the water back home. Water isn't a side note. It's the absolute foundation of your survival. Food gives you energy, but water is what keeps you alive and thinking straight. Get this part wrong and you won't be around long enough to worry about being hungry. This next one is genuinely tragic because it's so easy to avoid. Many people, even those who try to prepare, will build a pantry that's doomed to fail. They buy what they think is survival food, only to discover in a crisis that it's spoiled, full of bugs, or basically useless. They've wasted time and money on a false sense of security. The aisles of your local grocery store are a minefield for long-term storage. Most of that packaging is designed to be on a shelf for a few weeks, not survive a decade in your basement. Here are the classic blunders. The brown rice fallacy. People buy brown rice because it's healthier. For today, it is. For long-term storage, it's a time bomb. Brown rice has oils in it that will go rancid in 6 to 12 months, making your food taste bitter and foul. White rice, on the other hand, can last 20-30 years when you store it right. Trusting supermarket packaging. Those cardboard boxes and thin plastic bags offer zero protection. Pests will chew right through them, and a little humidity will turn your investment into a moldy brick. Ignoring the 3 enemies. Your food has 3 enemies: oxygen, moisture, and light. Oxygen makes fats go bad. Moisture grows mold. Light destroys nutrients. Just putting food on a shelf in its original box is an open invitation for all 3 to ruin your preps. Stockpiling oily foods. Things like nuts, whole wheat flour, granola, and chips are a terrible long-term bet. Their high-fat content means they'll go rancid very quickly. They're fine for your short-term pantry, but they are not the foundation of a real survival plan. When the time comes, people will open their food bins and find spoiled, useless mush. The calories they were counting on will have vanished. How to avoid this mistake. Build a fortress for your food. Building a resilient food supply is a science, but it's a simple one. You just need the right foods and the right storage methods. The right foods, your foundation. White rice, the undisputed king of long-term calories. It's cheap, dense, and lasts for decades. Dried beans and lentils packed with protein and fiber. Combine them with rice and you have a complete protein. Rolled oats, a powerhouse grain for breakfast or baking. Pasta, stores well and gives a huge morale boost when times are tough. Honey, sugar, and salt. When kept dry, these are practically immortal. They provide calories, flavor, and can be used for preserving other foods. Hard red wheat berries. If you have a grain mill, these are an incredible asset. As whole kernels, they last for decades. You can grind them into fresh flour whenever you need it. The right storage method, the gold standard. This is the secret that separates the amateurs from the serious preppers. Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers, placed inside a sealed bucket. 1. The bucket. Start with a 5-gallon food-grade plastic bucket. This is your hard outer shell, protecting your food from pests and getting crushed. 2. The Mylar bag. Inside the bucket goes a large Mylar bag. This foil bag is your fortress wall against oxygen, moisture, and light. Don't fill it up. Pour your dry goods like white rice or beans directly into the Mylar bag. 4. The oxygen absorber. Before you seal it, toss in an oxygen absorber packet. This little packet is a game changer. It will suck all the oxygen out of the bag, which stops fats from going rancid, and kills any insect eggs that might be hiding in the food. This is non-negotiable for true long-term storage. 5. Seal it. Use a simple hot iron or a hair straightener to melt the top of the Mylar bag shut. You want a complete airtight seal. 6. Label and store. Snap the lid on the bucket, label it clearly with what's inside and the date, and stick it in a cool, dark, dry place. A basement is great. A garage with wild temperature swings is not. When you follow this method, you are creating a food time capsule. You are taking everyday groceries and turning them into life-saving assets that will be good to go no matter what happens in the outside world. This is how you make sure your effort today actually pays off. If you don't want to be one of the people we're talking about, hit like and subscribe to the channel. The information we share here is designed to give you a real-world edge when things go sideways. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Possessing a mountain of food means nothing if you don't know how to use it. This is a subtle but incredibly lethal mistake. The unprepared picture themselves in a collapse, casually opening a bag of rice and beans and eating. They completely forget to consider the new reality, a world with no power, no running water, and none of the conveniences of a modern kitchen. Think about just making a simple meal. You've got 50 pounds of rice and 50 pounds of beans. How do you cook them? Fuel? Cooking dried beans from scratch can take hours of simmering. Doing that on a camp stove or over a fire will burn through an enormous amount of fuel, a resource that will be just as precious as food. Without a solid fuel plan, your year's supply of food might only last as long as your first propane tank. Water. Soaking and boiling all that rice and beans uses up a lot of clean water. When your water is strictly rationed, every meal becomes a serious calculation. Knowledge. Do you own a grain mill for those wheat berries? Do you know how to use it, and more importantly, do you know how to bake bread from that flour without a working oven? Do you know how to pressure can your beans so they become ready to eat, saving you a ton of fuel later on? And it goes way beyond cooking. Food preservation. What do you do if you stumble upon a bounty, a deer, or a neighbor's abandoned garden? If you don't know how to can, smoke, or dehydrate it, most of that food will rot in days. First aid. A simple deep cut from opening a can is an annoyance today. In a world without urgent care, it can be a death sentence. Infection becomes a primary killer. Knowing basic wound care isn't optional. Security. How do you make your home a less attractive target for desperate people without painting a giant bullseye on your front door that screams, "The prepper with all the food lives here"? Look, having the supplies without the skills is like owning a Ferrari with no keys. It looks impressive, but you're not going anywhere. People will starve not because their pantry is empty, but because they don't have the know-how to turn raw ingredients into food or manage their resources. How to avoid this mistake? Your strategy has to be twofold. Get the stuff and get the skills. Think of skills as invisible assets you can carry with you anywhere. Practice no-power cooking. Once a month, cook a meal for your family using only your preps. Use your camp stove. Build a small fire in the backyard or try a solar oven. You will learn very quickly about fuel use, cooking times, and what you're missing. 2. Learn one new skill a quarter. Don't get overwhelmed. Just pick one and learn it. Quarter 1. Water and fire. Master your water filter and learn 3 different ways to make fire from scratch. Quarter 2. Food preservation. Start simple. Learn to water bath can something acidic like pickles or jam. It's the gateway to the more advanced skill of pressure canning. Quarter 3. First aid. Take a stop the bleed or a basic first aid class. Focus on trauma and wound care. Quarter 4. Basic gardening. Even if it's just a few herbs in a pot on your balcony. Learn the fundamentals of soil, sun, and water. 3. Buy books. Don't rely on YouTube tutorials that will vanish when the grid goes down. Physical books are a permanent library of life-saving knowledge. Skills are the software that makes your hardware run. Without them, your expensive preps are just decorations. With them, you become truly resilient. There's this fantasy, especially in the prepper world, of the lone wolf. The super-skilled individual holed up in a cabin with their family, defending a mountain of supplies from everyone. It makes for a great movie, but in the brutal reality of a collapse, it's a blueprint for failure. Trying to go it alone is a fatal mistake born from paranoia and a total misunderstanding of human history. It all comes down to simple, brutal math. One person, no matter how skilled or well-armed, can't stay awake 24/7. You have to sleep, you have to cook, you have to tend to your garden. Every moment you're not on watch, you are vulnerable. A small group of desperate people, even if they're poorly armed, can just wait you out. They have more eyes, more time, and they can use the cover of darkness. Your fortress becomes your prison, and eventually your tomb. This fantasy also ignores the crushing psychological toll of total isolation. Humans are social animals. The constant stress, the lack of support, and the sheer loneliness will grind you down. Exhaustion leads to mistakes, a forgotten lock, a moment of inattention, and those mistakes can be lethal. Plus, the lone wolf has no backup. What if you get sick, or get a bad cut that gets infected? Who stands guard for you? Who fetches water? A simple twisted ankle can become a death sentence. In a group, people can care for the sick while others handle security and chores. A group provides a resilience that one person can never, ever have. How to avoid this mistake? The opposite of the lone wolf is the trusted community. Your single greatest asset in a crisis won't be your rifle. It'll be the number of trustworthy people you can rely on. 1. Build your tribe now. Don't wait until the disaster to see who your friends are. Start today. Build relationships with like-minded neighbors, friends, and family. Look for people with different useful skills. A nurse, a mechanic, a gardener. 2. Vet your people. Trust is the only currency that matters in a collapse. Don't just form a group, form the right group. Vet people slowly and carefully. Are they reliable? Are they mentally stable? Do they pull their own weight? Start with small projects together now, a community garden, a group bulk buy of supplies, and see how you work together under a little bit of stress. Build a plan together. A real survival group has a plan. Who's in charge of security? Who handles medical? What's the plan if someone's house gets overrun? Talk about the hard stuff now, honestly. A plan eliminates panicked, bad decisions when things get real. 4. Practice OPSEC, operational security. Building a community doesn't mean you put a billboard on your lawn. Your group must be discreet. Don't brag about your supplies. The goal is to be the gray man, unseen and underestimated. Your strength is in your quiet, organized teamwork, not in showing off. History shows us time and again, humans survive in tribes, not alone. A well-organized, trusted group can pool resources, share the burden of security, and solve problems that would crush any individual. Your network is your net worth. Build it wisely. Look, hearing all this can feel overwhelming. It's easy to look at these fatal mistakes and get buried in the dread. But that's not the point. Fear paralyzes you. Action empowers you. The reason we're breaking down these failure points is so you can calmly and logically make sure you don't fall into the same traps. We've seen that most people will be in serious trouble not because of some single dramatic event, but because of a series of simple, predictable mistakes. They'll cling to a normal that's already gone. They'll be trapped by their dependence on a fragile power grid. They'll get sick from bad water. They'll open their food bins and find them spoiled. They'll have the gear but not the skills, and they will try to face it all alone. You do not have to be one of them. This isn't about paranoia. It's about responsibility. It's the ultimate act of self-reliance in a world that feels less predictable every day. You don't have to build a bunker tomorrow. You just have to start. Your journey starts with a single step. Here is your mission. This week, buy one long-term food item you don't normally buy, 1 pack of food-grade Mylar bags, and 1 pack of oxygen absorbers. That's it. Take that first, tangible step to build a real, resilient pantry. That simple action is more powerful than 1,000 hours of worrying. And if you want to keep going and learn the critical strategies that the truly prepared use to thrive when systems fail, make sure you're subscribed. Stay safe and stay prepared.